Howdy folks, Adam here for JC Vape Shop to talk about how to build your own coil for an RDA or rebuildable drip atomizer. I'm going to show you everything that you need to build it and how to build a simple dual coil setup for your RDA. So the basic idea behind building a coil is that you want to wrap them in a certain way and then string cotton through them, and you're basically building your own wick. If you're familiar with how a regular atomizer works, like in a starter kit, like in an EVOD, you're basically doing that on a much larger scale, and using your own materials allows you to control the resistance rating and therefore the heat and the amount of vapor that you're kicking out. The main reason behind this is to produce huge clouds. You want to fill a room full of vapor, and there are some places even hold competitions for it, and they can get like really impressive, huge, long plumes of vapor as long as you build them properly. Today we're going to focus more on a simple build, just to get you familiar with the tools that you'll need to use and the sensation of actually vaping at really extreme temperatures. So the first thing you'll want to find is a battery or personal vaporizer that will basically give you the power that you need to heat up the coils. Once you're dealing with coils at in the sub-ohm range, that's the resistance rating of the coil, you'll need a battery that'll actually read the coil. If you were to try to put your build coil, you spend all that time making it, you pop it onto a regular, Ego or EVOD, it's not even going to read that a coil is connected. So you need something pretty heavy duty. So I'm using the IPv4 box mod. It's a 100 watt unit. You won't need anything quite this powerful. This is really like Kryptonian, Superman level battery. Generally what you want is something around the 30 watt range. Most of them will read a coil down to 0.5 ohm resistance rating. Since we're aiming to build a coil around the 0.5 ohm range though, you want something that can read even lower than that, just in case you end up with a coil that's a little bit special and doesn't quite hit that 0.5 ohm mark. Most beginner coil builders use Kanthal wire for their coils. Kanthal is the trade name for an iron, chromium, aluminum alloy wire that is widely used as heating elements because of its ability to withstand high temperatures. There are other types of wire that can be used too, but I generally stick with Kanthal because it's really easy to get your hands on. I'm using some 24 gauge wire here. For the wick, you'll want some organic cotton. I really like cotton bacon because it's packaged in nice strips, and it's already nice and fluffy. That'll help with absorbency. If you find some organic cotton that's packaged in sheets, you'll have to knead and stretch them out. It's important to find cotton that hasn't been bleached or treated with additives too. I'm using a Mutation XV5 for my dripper. This unit is essentially made up of a base that you'll be able to build your coils on, and a housing unit to cover it. This particular dripper includes a nice wide mouthpiece, which I like. If we take a look at the base of the dripper, we'll see it has 3 posts, each one with a tiny opening for the wire and a small screw to keep the coil in place. For this coil build, you want a dripper that has 3 posts. The idea is to wrap 2 coils, each one with 2 connections. One coil goes on each side of the dripper, with one connection going into the 2 outside posts and the other connections sharing the post in the middle. You'll also need a small pair of wire cutters, a small pair of scissors, and some pliers. You'll also need a small Allen key, but the dripper you pick up will likely come with one. So I'm using the Curo coiling kit here, stringing the wire through. Leave a lot of wire coming from the top. Twist the top section so that the small screw catches the wire. Do about 5 or 6 turns, as long as you're doing the same number of turns on the second coil. Flip off the excess, but leave the ends long enough to insert into the pegs of the dripper. Loosen the screws of the pegs insert the coil. One wire goes into one end peg, and the other goes through the center. Tighten the screws. Insert the coiling tool and push the coil closer to the center. Then use the wire cutters to trim the excess. Repeat the process on the other side, making sure the ends of the coil are in each of the pegs, one end in the open peg, and the other sharing the middle peg with your other coil. Now I'm pressing the button on my battery to heat up the coils, making sure they're connected. Grab your pliers and pinch the coils when they're still warm. Just make sure you aren't pressing the button while the pliers are touching the coils, or it could cause a spark. The coils are more malleable when they're warm, so you want to squeeze them gently to try to eliminate any gaps between the wire of your coil. Just make sure not to squeeze them too tightly, or you could mush up the coil and lose its shape. Now grab some cotton bacon and pull out a fairly thick strip. It may take you a couple of tries to get the thickness just right. You want it to be thin enough to fit inside the coil, but still fit snug. I like to roll the end so it fits in easier. Leave enough on each side because you want to tuck the remaining cotton under the coils. Even out the ends, then grab your scissors and trim the ends. I use the small Allen key because it fits between the coils really nicely. Try to tuck any flyaways down there too.
This is it, the borderline to where the future leaves us behind. The fire will
So I tested the resistance rating of my coil, and it's telling me 0.46 ohms. I was aiming for 0.5, so I'm going to chalk that up as a win. You want to add the juice a little bit at a time, so I'm just going to drip a bit onto each coil here. And then you want to put a little bit of juice on the cotton itself. And you want to go fairly slowly, just to give it time to soak into the coil. So my juice is soaked into the coil. I'm going to put the cap on, but I'm lining the air holes up with the coils. Just make sure it's got the most amount of airflow, just to help cool it off. And we're pretty much good to go. Awesome. Happy vaping, everybody.